All right, I want to welcome everyone to the program today. I'm excited to hear Alice talk. She's always fun to listen to. Alice Reese is our speaker today, and I want to thank Howard Davis, who is our sponsor for this month's program. And Alice is going to be telling us all about some movie figures who are from here. And also, she's been with the paper and a film critic for 30 years. I knew it was a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, always fun. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to her.
Well, the first one, these people that have interesting connections, they're not all really, stars or everyone knows about everything about Audie Murphy, so I won't have too much about him. I have some various clips, but we had also connections to John Bowles and also Monty Stratton, of course. And I also never saw the Stratton story. I never saw the Helen Back, and I never saw the Stratton story. So I had no idea. I was at Tenenbaums shopping, and this lady was going, "That's Monty Stratton's wife," and I was like, "Okay." She was the seamstress. She did alterations there, and set up Ethel.
She worked with my wife, my mother. My mother worked at Tenenbaums, absolutely.
And so I didn't know anything about that. Really, the only reason I even finally put it together is that one of Woody Allen's movies, he does a takeoff on a professional baseball player who doesn't have either leg. It was very tasteless, but he was playing with two wooden legs somehow and pitching. So and then I thought, then finally, and I had seen all the other movies that had the couple. For a strange reason, they put together 6'4" Jane Stewart with, I don't know how short she was, 5 feet tall, whatever, June Allison, and they were in 3 or 4 together. And a couple of times, June Allison played. She was married to the guy that's it's a Strategic Air Command. Who's that short guy? Alan Ladd. Okay. That was a lot of difference. They were closer in size. But anyway, also, and the one that people are not as familiar with is Omer Locklear. And the museum has plenty of material about all of them. And I had never heard of Omer Locklear until I got the poster over here. And that brought about me doing research. But most of the research on that was done by Milton Babb, who's kind of our local historian, and he found out what a big deal that guy was, and he was born in Greenville. So first of all, the Audie we know all about him, but I have 2 clips. First one is History in a Minute, and it's talking the military side, and then there's a clip from To Hell and Back.
You gonna be able to make it full screen? Can you blow it up, so? Yeah. It's better.
one guy to play the part. The guy who lived it and wrote about it. The guy who was there.
Brand new.
Was it?
55. I think it started in How to Marry a Millionaire, which was, I think, 54. that Fox was doing that. So that was a big deal. What interested, and I've talked to Larry about it, Susan Kohner was the woman in To Hell and Back, that he was a romantic interest. And she is still alive and not exactly a kid, but I thought she would be great for to come to Audie Murphy Day. But anyway, I talked to her. Her two sons are really big time film directors, Chris and Paul Weitz, and one of them's even been involved in the Harry Potter stuff.
This woman you're talking about,
Susan.
was she in the movie?
She was the lady that he was embracing, yeah, Susan Kohner. She was
Okay,
a
so
pretty
was
big-
that just an on-screen romance? Was there any,
On screen, no. He
No,
was-
off screen.
By that time, he was with, Larry can tell us, Wanda Hendricks. Wasn't he with her
probably
by
a second?
55?
Yeah, it didn't last long.
I don't know, yeah, he married an actress and then later married somebody else, but Wanda was, I don't know what was going on this set, I can't remember. Anyway, she was married to, I think he is now her husband, who was a famous clothing designer. And they had two sons, and the Weitz boys are really big-time film directors right now, WITZ. And when I interviewed them, we talked about their mom. She was also the woman who passed for white in Imitation of Life, which came along about the same time. And they had in the original movie of that, I don't know if it was a black person or a white person who played it, but she was a white person who was passing for white in that. The first version was in the 30s, so I don't know. It was Claudette Colbert. And the second version was Lana Turner. It was just on the other. They did Lana Turner Day on Turner Classics. So, but anyway, I think.
Susan Coleman was also in, already made three movies for TV, and she was in one of those with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they used the pictures from To Hell and Back to advertise it.
Yeah, she retired pretty early on, so that's why people know her now. But she had I'm trying to think. No, she was in something with Paul Newman, I believe. That's that point. Anyway, I'm going to go on to John Bowles, who I also didn't know anything about and ended up knowing a great deal about after I moved here. All I knew was that they named the theater group after John Bowles locally here. By the way, that's not connected to Bowles Home. No, nothing to do with that. And so he had been started out was born here, and he went to the University of Texas, and he went into the military, and some of the references say that he was in intelligence during World War I. He came back to Greenville for a while, and he got a role in an opera, a play and opera, at the King Opera House. And his family had planned that they wanted him to be a doctor, and they were really pushing for that, but he got a taste of showbiz, and that was that. He ended up going to Hollywood first, being in some silent movies, then he went to New York and was on Broadway, and that's where he really kind of made a bigger impression. The producers saw him on Broadway and brought him back, took him to Hollywood, and it was just the beginning of the talkies. And they found the reason was that he could really sing, and he also was really a handsome devil, and that he made quite a leading man, and that was the role he was in most of his life. But his most famous movie ended up being the one at the beginning, which was Frankenstein. He plays Dr. Frankenstein's friend, so he's not a major character there. But he was in that, and that, by the way, that James Whale version of Frankenstein is considered one of the finest films of all time. It goes way beyond just being a horror movie. James Whale was a heck of a director and great with casting. He's the one that got Boris Karloff, so that was that. But he did the Desert Song and Rio Rito, and a part of that movie was in Technicolor. Big deal. And then, but they liked his voice so much that he started making recordings of the songs from the movies. And then he introduced some of his own over the years. One of the most famous is It Happened in Monterey, which was okay they played it for kind of his theme song here, but that later became a really big hit when Frank Sinatra did it, and kind of did it as a jazz number. It really wasn't so much like that before. It was just more of a ballad. And so he always starred in all these movies they remade. They remade The Age of Innocence, and Daniel Day-Lewis played his part in that. He made that. And Stella Dallas, which became a radio soap opera that my mother listened to every day, Stella Dallas. And I thought it had something to do with Dallas, but it didn't. That was just a name. And he played this guy that nowadays we look upon as a really bummed guy. But then it was just normal for him to get rid of the first wife and take the baby and have a great life. And so it's what you call a weepy. That's what they called them in those days, where Barbara's standing outside watching her child through the window and crying. And I also have a clip to show you his singing at Thousands Cheer, and he sings Danny Boy. And other thing, most people who know who he is at all remember him because he played Shirley Temple's father in 3 films. First one was Curly, what is it? What's the name? Curly Top with Shirley Temple. And he retired from the screen and stage after a huge career in 1952. And for the next 13 years, he was in the oil business out in West Texas, and he died in San Angelo in 69, I believe it was. And but anyway, he sang that song. It happened in Monterey in a movie called The King of Jazz, but it's really not the jazz version. As I said, that really came later. But anyway, the first one is 10 Things You Should Know About John Bowles. Oh, and it's kind of awkward because his mouth is moving and there's no
Can you make that bigger?
Do you know what I did?
Put your cursor over the video, down at the bottom lower right.
This one?
big square.
Yeah.
There you go. You want me to start over?
Sure, if we're supposed to read and see what was there, what was
Yeah,
used.
he always had a mustache and said that's perfect. I guess some of is playing.
This one?
That, Joan did it.
I tried my luck at all things, nothing made me an fool. Then came the King of all things, love brought me happy news. I see no silver lining after a million dreams. I see the love light shining after a million dreams. The love came us and us as old as in crimson splendor. Two hearts are now entwining after a million dreams. I see the silver lining after a million dreams. I see the love light shining after a million dreams. The love came us and us was old as in crimson splendor. Two hearts are now entwining after a million dreams. After a million dreams.
Yes, that was his voice. And then we have another example from the movie called Thousands Cheer, which was made in 1939. And in this, he sings Danny Boy.
This is how to get shit fast.
Thank you.
There it is.
His face doesn't seem to match his voice.
It did, I know,
I think
well,
I'll say my favorite song.
Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses are falling. It's you must go, and I must bide. But come you back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valleys are hushed
until later, because I saw those movies, such as, Stella Dallas, and that kind of thing, that they showed on TV, and I didn't know anything about the singing. But that was kind of the style also at the time, and he does sound a little different, but he doesn't look like he'd be a tenor. And an Irish tenor at that. He got a little, in that, you can hear a little bit, trying to sound a little Irish there. That's the Irish people often say that. But anyway, and you couldn't really call him a superstar, but he was a star who had a huge career. The list of his books, they have online, they have pictures like this of each of his movies. And counting the silence and everything, there's just dozens and dozens of movies. They used to make, like they made the Westerns, several in a week or two. And so there were lots of those. But he was in the big mainstream movies later on. And he did go back and was on Broadway with Mary Martin all the way into 1952 in One Touch of Venus. And after that, he pretty well was retired. But here, he was already playing the fatherly figure at this time. He was in his 40s. So, next we have Monty Stratton. And that was, I told you all already, I didn't know who he was. And I finally saw the movie. They showed it at the Texan, and they have a nice poster there. And we had, when I helped Milton Babb do one of the history books, there was a really great photo of the day in 1949 when June Allison came for the premiere. James Stewart wasn't there, but all of Hunt County was at least very, very crowded, and all these cars in the streets that were parked right in. It was quite a big event, and they played it at the Texan. And, the Stratton Story played in 1949. And Monty Stratton was born in 1912, and he was 6'5". He was an inch taller than James Stewart. And he was a right-hander Major League Baseball pitcher for the Chicago White Sox for 5 years in the 30s. And then he had the hunting on the family farm when he fell and discharging his shotgun in the movie. But actually it was a handgun, and it struck an artery in his right leg, and it required amputation the next day. And there's all kinds of, I've heard 15 different stories about that, and everybody disagrees with the shotgun, or how it happened, or whatever. And
You
so,
say everybody disagrees?
well, they do. It was because the guy was living.
It was a handgun?
Yeah, he said it was.
Because he said so.
That part
Okay.
they agree on.
Oh.
But how it happened in particular is I don't know.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of versions of
See,
it.
I was always told he tripped and fell, but
And that's what they showed in the movie.
Yeah.
But, you can't believe movies.
You can't go hunting with a handgun.
I don't either. I don't know, but I don't know.
Yep.
And what maybe he wasn't hunting, he was just walking around with the gun and he fell, or that's what I mean. I don't know, and I don't know if, because it was an artery, they amputated for the next day. I doubt you wouldn't do that today, I don't think. What do I know about medicine? So anyway, what the big story was that didn't stop him. He continued for a couple of years. The other thing I didn't know was that he did go back to the White Sox and coach for a couple of years. And he was the batting practice pitcher still before. And then he came back to Greenville and started the Greenville Majors, the semi-professional baseball team. And he also pitched for the Sherman Twins, the Waco Dons, and etc. There were others. And the Stratton Story was a huge hit. I can't believe I never heard of it, because I was going to the movies all the time in 1949. Anyway, I was. And the Strattons lived on a 93-acre farm in Artis Heights. Heights, which nobody knows where Artist Heights anymore because they took the store down and there's no name. It's like I used to live in Revlon, and there's no name anymore. There's no Revlon Baptist Church, so there's no name for things. So Artist Heights is, yeah.
When he lived in Artist Heights, my dad had the bowling center next to Goodwill out there. Monty would come over and drink coffee at the bowling alley. I was young enough, I didn't know who he was.
It's just, that's,
But my dad told me that, said he came over at least once a week or so, you know.
and he was really sociable. People thought. And the movie won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, which is pretty great. And he also says that he helped to start the local Little League baseball program here. And he and his wife Ethel are buried at Memory Land. Incredible. And this, we had the previews of June Allison talking about the movie.
And also, I don't know how many people know, at the very beginning of the movie, you see the two little boys sitting on the bleachers. That's his sons, Monty's sons. He was able to get that to do that.
Enjoy the show and save. Flex Credits electricity plan from Reliance.
Hello. I'm glad to see you. I'd like to talk to you briefly about a friend of mine, Jimmy Stewart, and about our favorite picture, The Stratton Story. Oh, I suppose it was especially interesting because our story is true. The events shall naturally happen. Number two, fastball. Ah, come on, put it right in here, right over the...
Okay.
Right in here.
Gee, honey, I'm sorry to hurt.
No, I'm all right. But you've just lost yourself a catcher.
Never had a catcher quit me before.
You never had a catcher before who was going to have a baby. Marriage to a baseball player was an exhilarating thing for me. Monty was a huge success in the big league. He was at the third time. Then one day it happened. A sudden stroke of misfortune that cast a shadow over our lives. Yes, we overcame it. How? Well, that's part of the Stratton story you want to see for yourself.
I sure got me some gal.
Shucks and children. I sure got me some fella.
Shucks, didn't you know that?
And, I don't, Larry, what do you know about the accident?
Oh, I told him my phone. I really don't know anything about it. I was surprised when you said it was a pistol and not a rifle, so I don't. And it doesn't make a lot of sense when you think of the pistol. Like, say, if you're going hunting, you don't go hunting with a pistol.
Maybe he wasn't really hunting. Maybe
Well, that's right, that's true.
Maybe that wasn't the right story either.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna make up
They
one thing,
haven't
you
said
can,
somebody tried to kill him or something. It hadn't been anything like that. That
Yeah.
somebody else shot him. It wasn't. It was always that he said he did.
wasn't Ethel?
It wasn't. They did say, even though this did win original screenplay, so that means we kind of made some stuff up. And that's why Fred Astaire had it in his will that they were never to make a movie of his life, ever. He had that. Absolutely. He said what they do with those. And it's true, some of them are just so opposite of the characters they portray and what really happened. And it is ironic because June Allison and Jimmy Stewart played in the Glenn Miller story also. They did have nice chemistry, so they kept putting them together. And again, Glenn Miller was, the way he was presented in the movie, he was Jimmy Stewart, who's just such a nice guy. But that's not, in his history, he wasn't so charming. But he was a great musician, and he did get killed in, his plane, the plane went down during World War II. And my father is buried in a cemetery in Cambridge, England, outside of Cambridge. And the names are on the wall of the Kennedy fellow that was killed. These were people whose bodies were never recovered, and one of them was what did I just say? Oh, Glenn Miller, and I don't know how many of his band members were with him, but he had become. They gave him a military title, and he was stationed in England, and then he was flying and was killed, and his name was there.
But, when you're talking about Monty, at the end of the movie, he doesn't tell his wife, but they're going down to watch the Texas All-Star team or something, and he's going to pitch. Well, he got up, they had the bat too. He hit the ball, but he didn't make it to first base. He failed. And of course, that brought a big deal in the movie, because he goes back to where all the players are sitting, and they're quiet. They don't know what to say. He looked up and said, "Well, I took my slide too early."
Oh.
You know. Now, did that really happen in the movie? Probably. I mean, in real life, probably
No,
not.
those little incidents.
They add a few things in there to.
Yeah, to make it, to fill it in.
Although I do think this was the first movie, let's see, what was it? The first movie made about somebody who was still young and alive. First time it was done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they didn't have to put him up project, but no, it's a nice portrait of him, that film. But they just idolize anybody that does that, has the movie made. And so that takes us to our guy over here, Mr. Armour Locklear, O-R-M-E-R, who was born in Greenville in 1891. So he was a contemporary of John Bowles. He was interested in flying because, and this is also would be in every movie, somebody came and landed a plane to get something done, and I just read a book about it, a Russian book, and this Russian girl, that's how she got interested in flying, because she'd never even seen an airplane before, it was back in this time, and she became a pilot. But that's once he saw the plane, and he and his brother both were just crazy over airplanes. And so he joined the United States Army in 1917, and he was already such a good flyer that he became a flight instructor. And by the end of the war, he was a second lieutenant. But he was already doing crazy things while he was this instructor, like climbing out on the wing to fix something while the plane was going. And so the idea of this, that he saw a barnstorming show, one of these where the pilots went around and did nutty things, and airplanes, what they call it, flying circus is what it was. And he thought, well, we can do that too, and I can do that, and better than anything I've seen. I've already done all that kind of stuff. And so he started to be his own Locklear Flying Circus, and his trademark stunt was jumping from one aircraft to another while the planes were in motion. And and in the movie, this movie, the other pilot does that too. The two pilots get out of their planes that are flying along, and each of them, they reverse who's flying the plane. And the wing walking thing just became a big deal. And a lot of movies that went on, they had the women up there, and we see this in the movie you're going to see. And because his show was so great, and the movie producers saw it, and they hired him to be a stunt coordinator at first to teach other people, but then they used him, and he got to have lines, and he became a very well-known actor because of that. But he did all his own flying, and probably flew some of the other planes. He was probably the villain too in those. And this is the I got this at the Heritage auction several years ago. Greg Sims made these up. There a lot of these posters are down at the Municipal Auditorium that he took and redid, made them kind of lively looking. And the Great Air Robbery was a huge hit. And also, when we say that Homer was born in Greenville, he didn't grow up in Greenville. He grew up in Fort Worth. That's kind of important for one part, eventually. And the next movie he was to be in was The Skyway Man, which was in 1920. And the last stunt for the film was a nighttime spin. Initially planned that they were going to do it in the daytime with red filters to make it simulate darkness. The crew were supposed to douse the lights, and when he got near to these derricks that were there, and they didn't. And he and his partner, Skeets Elliott, went down, crashed into a sludge pool of an oil well that was right there. And they never pulled out of the spin. And so there were massive explosions and fire with Locklear and Elliott, mostly probably dying instantly. But they released the film anyway with that scene in it. Talking about poor taste. And he had got married to a lady named Ruby Graves in 1915, but they were almost immediately separated. And he had a fiancée named Viola Dana, who was a Hollywood star. And she witnessed the plane crash. She was there at the set. And she was so traumatized that she never flew again for the next 25 years. And what ended up happening is, and that will show you, Locklear was reputed to be the prototype for the character of Waldo Pepper, a fictional movie played by Robert Redford in The Great Waldo Pepper of 1975. Viola was an honored guest at that premiere in 1975 and 1920, so that was 55 years later. And I don't know what happened to his wife, but anyway, when he died, this is the thing that Milton Babb had found out. They had a big memorial in Hollywood, but when he came back to when they brought the body back to Fort Worth, there were thousands and thousands of people there for his funeral that came from all over. And he was just really well known because of that one movie that he had made. And I guess they also knew about the flying circus anyway. He was a kind of a hero of the time. And so, anyway, the film, right at the beginning, it does mention the previews mention, it starts out with these great early flyers. And I think they say Elmer Locklear, but his name is very quickly, you see it right in the middle of the screen. And so it was pretty much based on his life. But since it was Robert Redford, I had seen it, had no idea who Homer. I saw it in 1975 because it was Robert Redford, but I did not pay any attention to that but they do have it at the beginning. His name is mentioned. And
Working with customer.
sometimes meant dying. There was glory enough even for that. Except to their women.
I never get to see them. That's all banged up.
Margot Kidder,
Oh,
Lois Lane.
Oh, pretty girls who want to see.
I try very hard to cut down. Hey, what you trying to do? You can't land with her out there. You're a partner.
What makes the Great Wall of Pepper unique among the great air adventure films is its authenticity. Once again, men are flying as they did when planes were made of canvas, wood, and wire. And lives are laid on the line in wild and reckless stunts, all photographed in the air in a superb feat of flying and picture making.
You can put highways in the sky for people to follow.
Along with airlines and airmail, there's going to be big money in Turkish smart.
Well, I'm no chauffeur. And I'm no mailman. I'm a flyer.
Second best. At last, he could challenge the world's #1 flyer for supremacy of the sky.
And then that's it.
yeah. Good family.
Did anybody see that at the very beginning where there was a little Omer Locklear just did 6 seconds in the, maybe you played it again, just the beginning. Oh, it's really hard to see it. It seems.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they did have his name, and I think they had some other people's names too. I'm not sure that but that amazed me that it was actually, even after I'd seen the film, and I saw it again, all of it, and I didn't notice that until they talked about trying to put the art people, when they were trying to do things to downtown, they wanted to put something on maybe the bank building, the little plane or something. Anyway, to try to do justice to Omer Locklear.
They always pronounce his name wrong. I'm always like,
Well,
weird.
nobody else, I never heard of it before. But I kept thinking he had that, because of Learjet said they should think of that name, so you think maybe he had something else to do with flying. But anyway, those people that did that, well, they were daredevils and pretty crazy. I mean, there's no way to stop your fall, or I guess they did have parachutes, but. Anybody have questions about any of these people? Omer?
Did you say that after Monty retired from Major League Baseball, he did come back to the Greenville area?
Yeah, he did, and he lived, what's the name, Artist Heights area. It was 93 acres, but I'm sure
They
there's
had
no
blueberry
93.
farm or something. You can go out there and pick berries.
And I talked to several people who went there, and somebody who went there recently, that the house is still there, but I think it's all been built up. I don't think
It's
so.
lost $4.99.
Port, yeah, they would call it Monty Stratton Road. That's what
Yes.
people told me when I was first here. And I didn't know who that was, so I didn't.
My brother said that Monty coached his little league team,
Yeah, it said he started.
so he did some coaching.
Yeah, the son that died lived next door to my house, and he died in the house next door to me when I lived in Revlon. It was before I bought the house, and I didn't know who Monty Stratton was, so I didn't know who his son was, and I didn't know the whole story until years later.
Yeah, that's in the story.
There's a bunch of
Yeah,
dogs.
Steve Ramsey talks about, I think he was the insurance agent for, is it Dorothy? Or the wife
Oh, the wife,
that survived, and he saw her
Jean, right?
frequently,
No,
Jean was the son.
Jean was the son. Okay. that's Jean.
whatever she was. He said He encountered, he went out to visit with her
Yeah,
and
Mary
insured the property.
Ransom's family were real close. She
Yeah,
went out
okay.
there, didn't have any idea who they were. She didn't know anything about money, but she knew he was a good friend of her father's. And they would go to visit, but they didn't know. And it's like for me, I forgot to mention, my father was killed in World War II, and nobody told me anything about World War II. I certainly didn't know. It was kind of embarrassing for me because we went to the D-Day commemoration in 1984 when my daughter was in high school, and we were looking at the graves at Normandy, and I said, "Oh, all these people died on D-Day," and she said, "No, these people, a lot of these, that's Battle of the Bulge." And I said, "What's the Battle of the Bulge?" She learned all that from her teacher, Judy Wofford. She knew the dates. It was winter time. It was not on their when they died. So everybody that's buried and my father died in England. They took him back to England. So they later created that cemetery, Mattingly. It's at a little teeny town of Mattingly outside of Cambridge, and they created that way. I think in the early 50s. It was when Eisenhower was president. So that,
Who did you say was buried in Memory Land?
The Stratton.
The
the
Stratton.
Strattons,
Yeah.
the Strattons
Yeah,
are both.
and it seems like Memory Land, they would have died before we had Memory Land.
I think so too.
I would have thought they would be at Eastmount.
Well, Ethel Stratton went to Wesley Methodist
Yeah,
when we
they-
started going there 88.
Okay.
And I remember sitting and visiting with her, not knowing who Monty Stratton
Well,
was.
then we
You
would have
know,
had
so,
Memory
yeah.
Land
Yeah,
there.
the family
Yeah.
went to Wesley. They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem to me like Memory Land wouldn't have, maybe it had another name originally. But
I would have thought it was-
you'd have thought it was, yeah.
So, another presentation.
Yes.
History of cemeteries.